What's going on, everybody? I'm Tim Eister and welcome back to Rockport. In this video, I will finally be completing the Central Business District, and by that I mean I'm going to be filling in all the gaps between these big tall buildings that you see here. All of those little green spaces will be no more. They're going to be filled in with buildings and parks and whatever else. But most of the Central Business District area is going to be filled with commercial, but as I start to go out of the very central part of the city, I'm going to be focusing a lot on residential, because as you can see, my residential demand is pinned all the way to the top, and until we get that demand down, all of the businesses within the city are going to complain that there's not enough workers. And like I've stated multiple times in this series, I want to make the city as functionally, as functional as I possibly can for a hand-picked, totally plopped city, which is no easy task. We're pretty much playing Soviet economic simulator here, where the entire economic situation is planned. Every building is hand-picked to serve a function. You know, as residential demand goes up, I'm gonna hand plop some commercial buildings and whatnot. So anyways, in this episode, there's going to be a big variety of different kinds of buildings that I'm placing down. But here I'm going to focus a little bit on residential, as you're seeing me place down here. And I'm going to try to create as much of a diverse downtown as I possibly can. And by that, I mean different wealths of buildings. So right here we have some Brooklyn themed buildings, which, you know, are generally older, more historic buildings. But then next door you may find like a brand new luxury condo. And I think I mentioned this before in this series that, you know, that's kind of what I've been doing in this city this whole time. But, just to elaborate on that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, this episode was honestly a ton of fun to create. I just kind of got back into my zone and just started plopping away. And, you know, with these kind of builds, I tend to get carried away sometimes. And before I knew it, the whole area was done. And it just, I don't know, it felt like it went super duper quick. I find, for me, one of the most challenging parts about building a city in this sort of creative mode, or paintbrush mode, if you will, is when I'm dealing with any sort of high density area, such as a downtown or a central business district, is finding the right wall-to-wall buildings to plop. And thankfully, this is a little easier nowadays that the game's been out for a long time, and there's a lot of DLCs that contain some good wall-to-wall buildings. It's still challenging because maybe I want to use a variety of wall-to-wall buildings in one area. So maybe I want to use like some old historic looking financial buildings right next to like a modern condo building. And sometimes I like to mix and match between different themes in the game. But anyways, that's one challenge. But another challenge that I've discovered in this episode specifically is these large skyscrapers that make up the iconic Rockport skyline. They're these massive office buildings, right? And they don't necessarily bunt up against other buildings in most cases in real life. Oftentimes these buildings have their own plazas at their base. So a lot of these buildings, especially like the older style skyscrapers that look very like 60s style, you know, there's just like a big giant block basically. A lot of those buildings in real life were built as sort of urban renewal projects, where a lot of historical buildings were destroyed and they basically make way for these modern, postmodern looking skyscrapers. And they often built like these grand plazas at their base, just, you know, to make it look more modern and cool and whatnot. So I was trying to do this a lot in this city, but what I found challenging was there's not a whole lot of plazas to choose from. And the plazas that are in the game are often either too big or in a shape that doesn't really fit where I want to place it. So that's one aspect that I thought was a bit challenging in this episode specifically. But you know what? I was able to sift through the menus and in most cases just find a really nice plaza or a park to place at the foot of a lot of these skyscrapers. And, you know, I think I built something that looks really, really cool. And a lot of these DLC plazas that are part of the unique buildings menu are really, really great. I guess the only problem with a lot of them is that they're a bit large. So I often had to clip them within the buildings that were sort of like featured where those plazas were going. But it's all new stuff, guys. All new things that I'm experimenting with this episode that I haven't really done before. So it's a ton of fun. I'm honestly really, really enjoying this series, as I stated a bunch of times before. But I just want to reiterate that, you know, playing with only vanilla assets has its challenges, but it's super rewarding because it adds another element of challenge to building a city in this way, even though I'm placing down the city in a totally creative mode kind of way. So you'll see here that in the downtown, I am placing a lot of office buildings despite our demand being through the roof for residential, and you know, there's zero demand for any offices or industrial. But in a little bit, you'll see that I'm gonna start to place down a lot more residential, and to my surprise, it actually made a pretty decent dent in the demand by the end of this episode. So I think we should start to get a pretty functional city, and I'm pretty excited for that. And I've gotten a few comments on my last Rockport episode asking you guys if I'm going to continue to play the Rockport series when City Skylines 2 comes out. And that's actually a great question because I'm not really sure at this point. It'll totally depend how much I'm going to be playing City Skylines 2, which I'm sure I'm going to be playing it every waking hour of my life for the next few months after the game comes out, as you guys can imagine. But at the same time, I really like that I'm running two separate series right now. So I have Dunswell, which is a let's play kind of series where I'm literally just playing the game and you guys are following along. And I'm running Rockport, where it's a totally creative mode, paintbrush kind of series. And I really like both. So when City Skylines 2 comes out, I don't foresee installing any mods for the first little bit because I really want to get a feel for the game in its totally default state, right? I want to learn the game. I want to learn all the mechanics. I basically want to get at least one complete playthrough of the game before jumping into some mods and whatnot. So any series that I do in City Skylines 2 for the next little while will be in the sort of let's play kind of format. That being said, whatever series I'm going to be working on in City Skylines 2 when the game comes out will become the direct successor to Dunswell. And I'm actually really excited that I was able to wrap up Dunswell when I did, because it's just great timing. But anyways, that will leave me with just one City Skylines series. So there is a good possibility that I'm going to return to City Skylines 1 to continue this time-lapse sort of paintbrush mode city until I finish a good playthrough of City Skylines 2, and then at that point I'll probably want to start playing around with mods and maybe getting into an all-plopped city, which will then become the successor to Rockport. Okay, so I don't know if I'm explaining myself clearly here, but there's going to be like an offset period where I'm going to be playing through City Skylines 2. Meanwhile, I'll be building Rockport as well. So I can't confirm right away that I'll be jumping into City Skylines 1 while playing City Skylines 2 for the most part. But there is a chance, guys. It'll totally depend how I feel when the game's out and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just super excited to jump into City Skylines 2. So at the time of this video being released, I will have been given a early access copy of City Skylines 2 from Paradox. So I'm very, very grateful to have been given that opportunity. And on September 8th, 2023, I'll be releasing a sort of first playthrough of the game. You know, you'll be seeing my very first impressions. It'll literally be the first time that I'm picking up the game and I'm playing it. Well, actually, it'll be the second time, because about 3 years ago, Paradox had given me and a bunch of other creators access to a very early build of City Skylines 2, just to basically, you know, show us what they were working on at that time. But I'm so excited. The game is finally here, guys. This has been a long time coming. I've been wishing for a City Skylines 2 for a very long time now, and it's finally here. So it's going to be awesome. The next few months are going to be so fun. The next few years, I should say, because I doubt I'm going to be dropping the City Skylines franchise anytime soon. And yeah, I mean, it's literally become an integral part of my identity. It's crazy to say, but a game has become a part of me. Wow. But yeah. So anyways, back to the game here. You can see that I'm sort of jumping around from area to area. Yeah, I'm basically just filling in whatever blank square I can find. And as you can see, I'm placing down a good mixture of different themes of buildings. So I got some modern, you know, high-tech looking green buildings here next to some older European buildings. You know, I decided to squeeze in a couple of European buildings in here just to create a little bit more variety. So after watching all of this footage that I pre-recorded and editing this video, I realized that there's a lot of buildings that I didn't place that I could have, such as hotels. There's a lot of great hotels that could very well fit into this downtown area. So I'm probably going to revisit a couple of these areas, maybe just delete a couple of buildings here and there and replace them with hotels. And there's also maybe some public transportation buildings that I can place down, such as like bus terminals and things like that. But, you know, I don't want to like revisit an area too much, because I gotta progress in the series. So, yeah, but expect that I may gloss over some of these areas again at some point. It's at this point in the video where I'm going to be focusing my attention a lot more towards residential areas, just to get that demand down, just to finally get some people in here, because I probably have enough jobs for like 20,000 residents at this point, and you can see I only have not even 9,000. So I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you get the point. But yeah, it's time to get some people in the city of Rockport. So I'm going to be placing a lot of, I guess, medium density residential with a few like super tall high rises here and there. Because, you know, there's a ton of really great looking modern skyscrapers now in city skylines. Residential buildings, that is, you know, with the whole like green cities DLC and all of that. So yeah, those buildings fit very well into pretty much any city. Yeah, so just struggling with this parking lot here for a sec. So this parking lot, I forget exactly what DLC it's from. I think it was from the Japanese content creator pack, I believe. Anyways, it's a network. You can place it down just as you would a road. The only thing is there's no parking lot textures, but thankfully using the Find It tool, I can just sift through some props and decals. I believe those parking lot lines that I found were classified as decals, I think. But anyway, so it's still possible to create parking lots in with just using base vanilla assets. Just a little bit more time consuming than other methods in the game. So what's going on right here? So I'm about to clear a big chunk of land, and I'm kind of rethinking where I should place this skyscraper that I'm grabbing right now. And the reason why I'm clearing this land is because in its place, I want to build the city's university. So I want to build a university right downtown. It'll look super cool. And yeah, so I just had to move that really tall building out of the way. I don't want to remove it altogether because I actually really like it. However, I'm really not sure where I'm going to place it. It's kind of hard to find a good area to place this building because it is quite large and it doesn't play very well with the downtown terrain because the entirety of downtown is on a slope. So that makes it a bit tough. But anyways, I'll figure that out when the time comes. But yeah, there's probably the next episode I may get into the university, I think. And as you'll see, a large portion of this episode 2 is just going to be placing trees between a lot of these residential buildings. I don't want to go into crazy detail like I mentioned before. And these trees are just a quick way to act as filler. You know, you can just kind of shove them between buildings and it looks pretty much just as good from afar than if I actually went and completely detailed every little nook and cranny. And here you'll see that I'm struggling a little bit with this. I believe it's a medical building. I'm just kind of figuring out how I want the university to play out. This building is really cool because as you may have noticed, there's a pedestrian bridge between the two main buildings. And using the the road anarchy tool, you can actually draw a building through that little canyon between those two buildings. So I 100% will be taking advantage of that in this series. So I was just kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to place everything down. But anyway, so that's going to be for another time. For now, I'm going to head on over to the other side of downtown and just continue on the residential theme. And like I've been doing for the entirety of this city, I really want to get a good mixture of different styles of buildings in here. You know, maybe some more fancier high wealth buildings mixed in between some little, you know, old Brooklyn style apartments. I really like to have a good variety in my cities. So this was actually one of my favorite parts of this project, and it's this plaza here. So this is actually the very first time I placed down this specific plaza ever in the game, and it looks really cool. It's like an underground mall kind of thing, and thankfully it just so happened to fit perfectly within this block here. So yeah, that was really great. I decided to make this like a sort of open public space all between these buildings, and you know, it's I guess this would have been subject to a very extensive urban renewal project in the city. But yeah, it just looks really, really cool. And to my surprise, I often zoom out of whatever I'm working on. And at the very end of this episode, I found myself amazed by just how much the city has expanded. I was not necessarily dreading this episode, but in the back of my mind, I was like, this is going to take forever to fill in all these blanks and you know, just to get the downtown area done. But, you know, I was just in the zone when I was working on this, and I just plowed through it. I was just having a ton of fun. I had some tunes going, and yeah, I'm really, really happy with how this whole area turned out. Now, it's not done yet. There's still a couple minutes left in this episode, so you'll get to see how it all turned out at the very end. But I'm overall super stoked about how everything ended up. So with the city progressing so well, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable now. I think I can probably get a lot of work done before City Skylines 2 comes out. You know, I think the city can probably progress a lot in the next couple of months before the game actually comes out, and you know, I'll be focusing on that for the next little bit. But yeah, it's awesome, guys. I mean, Rockport is turning into a very, very wonderful city. It's awesome. So I've set myself a little bit of a goal, but you know, it's not a big deal if I don't reach it, but I would at least like to finish the downtown peninsula of Rockport, because at that stage, you know, this can be considered a proper city. We'll have most of the amenities placed down to make the city actually work, and you know, at that point, I'll be happy. I mean, I'm pretty happy with the work that I've done so far, but that'll like really, really make me happy. And then I can just kind of pluck away at the city after that and feel accomplished. Yeah. I really can't wait to see this metro in action. I just think it looks super cool that it's kind of winding through these buildings here. I mean, not really, because it's just going in a straight line and eventually is making a left turn. But yeah, it's gonna look really, really cool. I'll have to do some first-person shots of this metro when it's operational. And I really want to get the opportunity to do some driving videos through here, as I do with Dunswell. I'm going to try to maybe pump out a couple of these driving videos out before the release of City Skylines 2, because they're just so fun to make, and I know you guys enjoy them because it gives viewers a different perspective into a city. So yeah, I'll try to make those happen. But anyways. So at this point in the episode, I'm pretty much finalizing the last little bits here before I wrap up the episode. Most of what you're going to see here is residential areas with, again, the tree filler method. And I really, really enjoy these small parks that have been added to the game, these little 3x2 parks. You can just kind of squeeze them in, all these little nooks and crannies. and they help to just improve your city's land value, and it just, you know, provide some extra amenities. So yeah, these extra parks are just really awesome. And yeah, here is a good example of these really modern buildings that I like to place around town. Specifically this building here, this residential building. I really like this building. It looks awesome. And I kind of just noticed that it existed in this episode. I hadn't really noticed it before, but I'm sure I'm going to be using it from now on here and there in the city. Well, guys, I'm just about to wrap up this episode, and I just want to thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. If you enjoy my videos, as usual, make sure that you drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned, by the way, to the very end of this episode, because I will be showcasing what we've built this episode. I'm really proud of how the downtown has shaped up. Next episode, like I said, I'm probably going to get into the university, most likely, unless things change, but you know, that's most likely is what's going to happen. So yeah, with all that being said, guys, thanks again so much for watching, and until the next episode, take care, everyone.